Let's get the read from House Republican Conference Vice Chair Doug Collins from Georgia. Congressman, do you know anything about this Senate thing?
Well, Neil, I think what we've been is an extension of some conversations we've been having now for many months. We've got to get to a cap deal in which we can begin the process of doing our complete year funding and also give the defense and others a security over the next 2 years. So, yes, there is, I believe, work on that. Is it there yet? Maybe not right quite yet, but we are working toward that because, frankly, that's what's had to be in play here. And we've encouraged our Democratic colleagues to come to the table, but yet they've been sidetracked on illegal immigration and everything else. They've not been wanting to give a caps deal because they've just been wanting to delay over tactics that's not involved with the budget. We need that budget cap deal so we can make sure that our military is funded, but also make sure government's funded, doing our job up here.
Yeah, you should hear what they say about you, because I think when it comes to the budget cap, you get everything you want, nothing they want. You say what?
Well, I think you're going to look at it. I mean, look, there's also understanding, especially when you look at the caps deal, there's understanding that to get defense, that there's going to have to probably be some movement in the non-defense discretionary. I think, you know, for some of us, it's probably more than I would like to see, but also at a certain point in time, we also have to balance the needs of our country at this point, and also supporting the president and saying the president has laid forth his desires for the military, but also other programs. I think you're going to come to an understanding that we need to move forward here. That doesn't mean we give up our principles and start just accepting anything, but I think at a certain point in time, we're going to have to understand that we got to work together here, and until the Senate, you know, decides to do away with their 60-vote rule, then this is sort of the path that we're going to have to deal with for now.
You know what worries me in the interim, and I know you're keeping track of this yourself. We're likely going to be borrowing $1 trillion more this year as a result of staring at a $1 trillion deficit. I'm not blaming you exclusively for that, or Republicans or Democrats, but here we go again. What's going on?
Well, I do blame us in a way. And I think the reason I say that is because we've got to look at a long-term financial future that anybody at their dining room table would actually look at.
But you never do. Neither party ever does it.
We don't. And I think that's holding a requirement that we're going to have to face up to the future. And I think that some of it's actually going to be forced upon us. When you start looking at our long-term debt, when you look at the interest rate structure right now and what it could be and what that debt payment would be, when you start looking at mandatory spending, we've got to get serious around here to realize that 60 to 70% of this budget is never even dealt with any of the appropriations process. We just simply fund it. That's not a sustainable way to look in the future. So for those of us, number one, let's go back to something very positive. That's the tax reform. That's going to generate not only economy and economic growth, which is going to provide income, but we've also got to do our part on the side of spending. And that's why we're looking at, you know, this continuing resolution now, which may or may not come back from the Senate with a bigger package on it. But I think when, you know, my question is for my Democratic colleagues is why wouldn't you vote for this? We're funding community health centers, which, by the way, I have 19 in the 9th District of Georgia with over 49,000 people served by these. We're funding those for 2 years. We're also funding our military, giving pay raises. So I'm just wondering at this point how much worth it is to go out and have issues like illegal immigration that we're working on to solve to hold that hostage to our military and those folks who need community health centers funded. That's going to be the question here in just a few hours for our Democratic friends on the floor of the House.
All right, so first in the House, you'll work out something. The Senate thing, I guess, which seems bigger and longer term, that's something they're separately doing, and then you reconcile all of this?
We do. I think once the Senate does that, we'll come back to us at some point.
Understood. Sir, thank you very, very much.
Neil, it's good to be with you.